My name is Jacob Haining. I'm the principal solution architect at Impower.ai. Impower.ai is a proud partner with UiPath, and we're a certified implementation expert in the Test Suite product. Now, our experience isn't industry specific, but today I want to focus on an industry where we've had a lot of success. We've seen some tremendous outcomes in some of the largest restaurant chains in North America. This is traditionally a difficult space to automate in, especially in QA. And so the manual approach has shown us some familiar pain points. The need for manual testers has really produced third-party vendors that come in and own and execute QA within specific projects. And so when the project implementation is complete and the vendor leaves, they take the test cases, they take the code, they take the knowledge with them. And then on top of that, if you have project-specific QA, you also have different processes, you have test cases that live everywhere. So we've seen them in Excel spreadsheets, we've seen them in SharePoint, we've seen them in Jira, in Azure DevOps, we've seen them just all over the map. And so we've been able to solve this within one of the top quick service restaurants in the country. And this is very difficult for us because the automation within QA, within the point of sale software, for instance, wasn't traditionally something that we could do. So we've seen something like 3 to 5 times faster implementation times, the 70% code reusability that Garrett talked about, and I'll build on top of. And then we also 10x the speed of our development cycles. And we'll talk a little bit about how we were able to do that. So the first one is the shared skill sets, right? So we were able to elevate QA within the automation space. And by elevating QA in that space, we were able to create a shared skill set across different departments. So we were able to horizontally scale. You no longer have a QA automation engineer and a business process automation engineer. You just have an automation engineer. And so the ability to do that effectively doubled the workforce in the automation space across the organization. We also have automation architects, the digital testers, and citizen developers that Garrett mentioned. This had a secondary effect. Along with the 3 to 5 times faster development times, we were actually able to reduce overhead in recruiting and hiring and onboarding because all the departments are now looking for the same persona. As you can see, some of the responsibilities across the automation project are shared between both departments. And so the heavy lifting can be done by either team. In this case, you really have the ability to say, QA now has automation developers rather than automation testers, right? And so that just a subtle change, but it does transform QA in that the way we understand them within the organization changes. So the shared components. This is something that's been around within IT as a standard for a long time, but it's traditionally been hard to adopt within QA. With UiPath and UiPath Test Suite, we changed the goal from project implementation to automating those applications like Garrett talked about. So each new workflow that we automate increases the coverage of those applications. So for our friends at the restaurant, it was things like placing an order, right? To place an order, we had to log into the application, we had to select a store, and then we had to actually place the order. And so as we automate these workflows, we increase the coverage of their point-of-sale software. So now that we've done this, if we implement it in such a way where these components can accept input, things like new credentials for login, maybe a unique store location for selecting a store, and the different items for placing the order, you've created something that can now be used across the organization in different departments. And so when the business team comes and says, hey, we have a use case within the point-of-sale software, we can pull in their workflow, we can use the login, use selecting a store, and use placing an order. And when a new test case shows up for the point-of-sale systems, we can reuse the same components in that workflow. And so we've seen about 70% component reusability within this space, and we've seen significant reduction in time to value. We've already seen this within the last 6 months. Along with shared components and shared skill sets, we also introduced a shared architecture. So both teams are using the same architecture to do their automation processes. And this was key for us to be able to ensure standards and best practices enterprise-wide. So no matter where the work is being done, whether it's in QA or business automation, the flow of work is the same. So from development to version control, CI/CD, code quality gates, all the way down to consumption of the automations. This part is really important for us, that we can increase the quality of the automation that's happening. So if automation is already increasing efficiency throughout the organization, we can introduce it horizontally across departments. But if we do that and they're doing it in different ways, it can often become incompatible between the departments. So if they share the architecture, they share the code, they share the skill sets, they share the components, then you ensure that automation as a whole is scaling across the organization, especially in QA. And by doing this, as you can see, we're able to more than 10x the speed of our development times. So overall, we've seen positive outcomes that horizontally scale across departments, leading to higher code quality, more robust solutions, and ultimately more trust from our business partners. And so in being able to do this with UiPath Test Suite, those components then become critical assets to the organization. Like Garrett mentioned, it transforms QA not only in the way that they work, but in the way that they're perceived. And so within the restaurant, we were able to say QA is no longer a cost center. It's something that's providing real value and real valuable assets within the organization. So now as we're providing these quality pieces of code for automation back out into the organization, we can say, this is a space we want to invest in more. We were able to do this within a top restaurant chain in America, which is traditionally seen as somewhere where it's difficult to automate. But not only that, within QA and within their point of sale distributed software systems, which is widely seen as a space that can't be automated. And the reason why we were able to do this is because of the UiPath platform and UiPath Test Suite. And so this is why we believe that UiPath itself is really transforming QA, even in a short period of time, and they're enabling this age of the digital tester. So that's the real-world scenarios that I have for you. So thank you.